looks, which would very well explain why we see the John that we see. That is very buttoned up, doesn't say anything, doesn't answer any questions because he's already very well equipped. And so, but the thing about John a lot of times is even though he's a PR guru in this instance, I'm going to call him that, he's a PR guru, his face is very frustrated. He always has this frustrated look on his face that he's even unhappy to be there, or he's unhappy that he has to endure questioning or endure the situation, but he's making the best of it that he can. Anyways, so this guy is a PR guru. He's a marketing genius. He would know how to cover things up. And so something that comes in is well publicized. He can tell you, hey, look, we're doing great. I got $1 billion business. We're rolling. But this article tells a different story. Police investigators, and this is, when was this? When did they write this? What's the date on this? 4/15/97. If we're coming out of 96, we're only 4 months into the new year, right? And, John is getting the business. John and Patsy are going through it. They're having to do, or they're having to do interviews, or they're agreeing to do interviews. And I think at this time, John is supposed to be on leave, I think. But he's supposed to be on leave to take care of his family or to grieve. I would think in peace and handle things in peace, but he can't do it in peace because when he leaves work, now he has to deal with the firestorm of sort of quelling the questions around his daughter's unaliving, right? And so, oh, he is on leave. Okay, there it is. Police investigators have not ruled out the possibility that the girl's parents may be implicated in the crime, and Ramsey is on a leave of absence from the company. Here it goes right here. Because even though Access Graphics, talk on Wall Street, even though Access Graphics is a private company, I think Lockheed has an IPO at this time. Because talk on Wall Street, or they're on the market publicly traded. Talk on Wall Street could be wrong, but if they're saying talk on Wall Street, and that's all I'm going off of, and in industry circles, Lockheed is embarrassed by the whole affair, and they are anxious to ditch Access Graphics. We talked about in other videos before the issues going on internally with Jeff Merrick and the reporting of falsifying records, and Jeff came out and said, look, man, I'm just trying to do my job and I'm trying to be honest, is essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but Jeff is like, hey man, look, I'm just trying to do my job. I'm just trying to be honest. But it seems like, John has a vendetta against me. Right. And so even though what I've read before tells me that Lockheed wasn't worried, because I've seen that Lockheed's not worried. Oh, everything's fine. It looks very, very much here like Lockheed is embarrassed. That's what we're reporting in 4 months after the new year, that they're embarrassed. And the company is already shopping around. In any event, it's no longer business as usual at Access Graphics. Because John, as the president and CEO, would be feeling this. But then here's the problem. He takes a leave of absence during the turmoil of what's going on in his house. Come on. He takes a leave of absence. And so people don't know what to think. This happened and you just up and left. So we can't even access you. I mean, maybe the top executives can. And you're probably in contact with the top executives, telling them what to do if they have questions and all such as that. Hey, if you need me, call me on my cell kind of deal. Because John can't stay away from business like that. But they can't ask you any questions. And so it leaves a lot of people to say, man, did you do it or did you not do it? It's no longer business as usual. As evidenced by the fact that it has received an anonymous threat against Ramsey and other company employees. Now, this is somebody who apparently is, now that's another level. because not only do you have to take a leave, you have to deal with this, your company's not happy, but now you've seen that the public is not happy. And you know what? As I think about it, John and Patsy act like the police. Hold on. Hold on. This entire time, John and Patsy have been sitting here acting like the police are dead wrong in how they think. But if you're receiving threats from the outside world 4 months after, from some random person saying, hey, I think you had something to do with this. I'm going to take you. Now, this happens all the time. I give it to you. This happens all the time. However, it ain't just the cops that have a problem with what they're seeing. And the cops 4 months into the investigation, or about 4 months. Let's go with 4 or 5 months. 4 months. 4 months into the investigation. I'm comfortable there. They're hot on your trail. They say, yo, 4 months in, we still haven't been able to eliminate you. How dare you? And the Ramseys are like, how dare you include me in this? And how dare you say this about us? But the cops are like, we haven't, even with the botched crime scene, even with the struggle for evidence, the cops are like, we haven't seen enough to rule you guys out. You know how bad? Do you know how bad of a job? you know how bad of a job you have to do in covering up something? And I'm assuming here that they covered up. This is an assumption. But you know how bad you have to be at covering something up for the crime scene to be botched? And for all the clues to be leading here, there, and everywhere? For the cops to be like, but that doesn't throw me off the case at all. I think we still got something on you guys. And not only that, but it's not the cops. John and Patsy have consistently focused on the cops, and it's not the cops. Lockheed Martin isn't even behind you. The public isn't even behind you. So it's not the cops that don't like you. It's everyone that doesn't like you guys, which makes sense why you guys would write a book. That's because John being John is going to be consistent. John and Patsy have to, I wonder if it was John's idea to write that book. And again, Patsy is following John's lead. And John is like, yo, Patsy, we need to write a book. We just need to sit down and write our side of the story. And then I wonder what kind of influence, again, that John is sort of imputing to Patsy. What kind of influence, and I use the word impute to say that it's kind of, I give influence to her. I impose influence onto Patsy very subtly. And I make it, and I say it in a way that it's almost as if it's your idea. Hey, Patsy, you know what we should do? I'm so sick and tired of all of this narrative about us. And Patsy very well much agrees. Yeah, I am too. You know what we should do? We should write a book. We should or this is how he'll phrase it. We should do something. We've done it. And she was like, well, we're doing interviews. What else will we do? We should do something that would allow us to clear our name once and for all. I don't know what that could be. And Patsy might be like, maybe we could write a book. And John is like, write a book. That's what we should. There it is. We should write a book. Which is what John wanted to do all along. Because he knows, yo, if you look at some of these pictures on the internet, and we'll do some analysis of it. if you look at some of these pictures on the internet, John a lot of times is behind Patsy. He's behind Patsy. And I'm like, why are you always walking behind Patsy? He's always walking behind Patsy because, again, John has the influence. He's the sales and marketing guy, but he's not the spokesperson. John is not going to speak unless he has to. John is going to hold composure, right? Because John wants to show, I'm not bothered. I don't need to speak. But he's going to send the bulldog out front. The bulldog being Patsy. Patsy's going to bark and bark and bark. And if Patsy believes something, Patsy is a ride or die for her family. If Patsy believes something, and the thing about it is, if you can get Patsy on your side to trust you, Patsy's going to go to war for you. But you can see in some of the interviews, as Patsy's eyes drop, or she looks down, and her eyes kind of go back and forth very quickly through on the floor, there is a wonder about, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? But I can't betray family. Need to understand more about Patsy, because does Patsy know that she is loyal to a fault? And John knows that Patsy is loyal, but John sits back and he has to and he has to, in other words, motivate her to do something. But as we can clearly see here, Lockheed Martin is not happy. The public is not happy. The police are not happy. And so John is, what we see is a picture of a world crumbling around John. So John is telling us one thing, he's telling us something, but we don't know how believable that is. I'm going to let that marinate and come back. And then we'll kind of continue this sort of walking through where this leaves John. So until next video, take it easy.